everyone and welcome back to another video. So I thought I would post a workout video today. I've not posted a workout on here since my very first video, so I thought it was about time that I did another one. Obviously gyms are back open here now, so it's going to be like my first proper YouTube gym workout. So as you can probably see from the title, it's going to be a glute focused lower body day. This is the session that I did yesterday morning, and I filmed all the exercises and I'm going to take you through exactly what I did. So I didn't want it just to sort of be a standard workout video. I wanted to give a little bit more detail, so I'm gonna kind of talk you through all the exercises individually and give you some tips for like your form and your technique. And I also want to talk about how you can adapt certain exercises to target your glutes a little bit more. So yeah, it's going to be all sort of stuff like that. I'm hoping that it is going to be quite helpful and you're going to learn something from the video, and also it's going to give you a workout to follow to help you get back into the gym. And the last little thing is I just want to remind people to ease themselves back into the gym. Obviously we've been in lockdown for like 4 months and most people have had minimal equipment. Me personally, I've only had 12.5 kilogram dumbbells and resistance bands. Some people have had even less than that, so don't expect to go back to the gym and be able to lift the same weight that you could before lockdown. Ease yourself in, start off pretty light for the first few weeks, let your body get used to lifting weight again and then build up from there. The last thing you want to do is go in all guns blazing and injure yourself and have to take another 4 months off the gym. So yeah, just ease yourself back in and take it easy for the first few weeks. So getting into the actual workout, I like to keep my training pretty basic. I don't really do anything fancy or that creative, to be honest. I just like to stick to the basics because I personally think that the basics are what work the best. So I always start any weight session with a warm-up. I didn't film the warm-up for this session. It was my first time in a new gym, my first ever session in there, so I was a bit shy sort of getting my camera out right away, so I didn't film it, but just kind of quickly run you through what I did. So I started off with a resistance band. I did 12 standing abductions on each leg. Then I did 15 banded glute bridges, and then moving on to just body weight, I did 12 donkey kicks on each side and 10 sumo squat pulses. So for the sumo squat pulses I just did down, down, up, 10 times. And yeah, that was my warm-up, and then I just got straight into the rest of the workout. So I always like to start off a workout with the compound movements. So compound movements are ones that work more than one muscle group, and they tend to be the ones that you can sort of go quite heavy on as well. So I always like to put those at the beginning so I can prioritize them and make sure that I'm kind of putting in as much effort and as much energy into those as possible, as those tend to be the ones that I kind of want to progress most. So for this session, my first workout was hip thrusts. So hip thrusts are a really good exercise for your glutes. They sort of target the glutes as a whole rather than one specific area. So yeah, you do get quite a lot out of hip thrusts. They can be a bit of a pain to set up, especially if your gym is busy, but in my opinion they are definitely worth that extra little bit of hassle. So what you're going to need is a bar and plates. Make sure that you've got the big bumper plates so that you've got enough space to sort of roll it over your legs, and then you're going to need something to sort of rest your back on. I prefer to use the plyo boxes that are in the gym as I find them a bit more comfortable, but you can also use a bench if your gym doesn't have any sort of boxes. You want the bottom of your shoulder blades to be resting on the corner of the box or the bench, as that's kind of where you're gonna move from. You're gonna have the bar resting on your hips. Drive your hips up so that your body is sort of straight at the top. You want to be really pushing through your heels, squeezing your glutes at the top, and then you're just going to bring it back down to the bottom of the movement. While you're at the top of the movement, your knee should be at a right angle. If your feet are too far out, you're going to feel it more in your hamstrings, and if your feet are too far in, you're going to feel it more in your quads. So you want your knee to be at that right angle so you can kind of get the most glute engagement possible. Another thing to mention is to make sure that you keep your chin tucked in through the whole movement. It does give you a double chin chin and it can be quite unflattering. But if you don't tuck your chin in and you're kind of swinging back with your head right back, it could potentially damage your spine. So chin tucked in, make sure you're protecting your back and your neck. So I did 4 sets of hip thrusts. I did one sort of warm-up set where I used a lighter weight, and then I did 3 working sets with a weight that was more challenging for me, and I normally like to go sort of 6 to 10 reps on these. Okay, so next up we've got Sumo Dad Lifts. These are a similar sort of movement to a conventional deadlift. The only thing that's different is your stance. So you want your feet to be slightly wider than shoulder width apart, and you want to have your toes turned out on a slight diagonal, and that is going to put more focus on the glutes and the hamstrings. If your main goal is to grow your glutes, I would definitely recommend having a Sumo Dad Lift in your program. It's probably one of my favorites, and you can go quite heavy on it, so there is that potential to sort of like really progress with it as well. Main thing to focus on with a Sumo Dad Lift, as with any other type of deadlift, is to make sure that you're not lifting with your back. You want your back to be nice and straight throughout the whole movement, otherwise you're probably going to really hurt yourself. I personally find that like really pushing through my feet helps me to keep my back nice and straight. So what I like to do is, rather than think of it as pulling the weight off the floor, think of it like you're pushing the floor away from you. For me, that just sort of makes sure that I've got all the power coming from my legs, and like my legs are doing all the lifting rather than my back. And yeah, like I said before, that's gonna really reduce your risk of injury. So same as the hip thrusts, I normally do 4 sets of these, a lighter set to sort of start off with, and then I up the weight to a more challenging weight, and I'll do 3 sets with that weight. I tend to do less reps on deadlifts because I find them a lot harder than hip thrusts. So yeah, I normally go for sort of 6 to 8 reps on these. So moving on, we've got Bulgarian split squats. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with these. I find them really hard, they burn, they make me really sweaty, they make me out of breath, but after you've done them you feel really good, so it's kind of worth it. So for the actual movement, I like to use dumbbells. I just have one in each hand. You're going to put your back leg up on a bench, and then you're going to take a few sort of steps away from the bench and bring it down into a lunge squat position. When I first started doing these, they used to burn my quads like mad. I could only feel it in my quads, and I was always like, how do people feel it in their glutes? Like, this is not a glute exercise, this is a quad exercise. And then I followed Brett Contreras, the glute guy, on Instagram, and I saw him say that the further away you are from the bench, the more you're going to feel it in your glutes. So I tried that and it changed my life. So yeah, I like to take quite a few steps away from the bench, and yeah, I feel that in my glutes a lot more. Something else that I find really helps feel it in my glutes is sort of like leaning forward a little bit. So rather than having your body kind of coming straight up and down throughout the movement, if you have it on a slight diagonal and bend forward, you're going to feel it a lot more in your glutes. Well, I personally do anyways. So if you're struggling to feel it in your glutes, I would definitely try those 2 things. So for Bulgarian split squats, I did 3 sets, and I aim for sort of 8 to 12 reps on each leg. Okay, so moving on to the sort of easier, lighter exercises now, we've got cable pull throughs. I have always loved cable pull throughs. I don't know what it is about them, but whenever they're in my session, I really look forward to them. So for a cable pull through, you're going to want to attach the rope attachment onto the cable, and you want the cable to be right at the bottom. You're going to take the rope sort of in between your legs, and then you're going to take a few steps away from the cable. Just kind of want to be far enough so that the weight stack isn't going to touch when you bring it back. Once you're in a good position, you're going to push your hips back as far as you sort of can, and then you're going to drive them forward and squeeze your glutes at the top. A cable pull through is not a squat. You see so many people doing this movement wrong in the gym and bending their knees way too much. Your knees should only be very slightly bent. It's your hips that are doing all of the moving. Hinge, hinge, hinge. It is a hinge movement, not a squat. When you bend your knees too much and you're kind of turning it into more of a squat, you're putting a lot more focus on your quads than on your glutes. And obviously the whole point of a cable pull through is it's a glute exercise, so by bending your knees too much you're taking away from that and you're not targeting your glutes as much as you sort of could. Like I mentioned, it is a hinge movement, so you're hinging at the hips, so you want to just make sure that you're pushing your hips back as far as you can. You'll really feel the stretch down your hamstrings. Push them back as far as you can and then bring them forward. You shouldn't really be like bending up and down, it's more of a sort of back and forward movement. You'll feel it a lot more in your glutes if you do it that way. For cable pull throughs, I do 3 sets and I have a bit of a higher rep range for these, so I'll go for sort of 10 to 15 reps on each set. And the last exercise that I did in this session was abductors. I would normally use like the abductor machine for these, but the gym that I was in didn't have one, so I just had to make do with what I had. So I just used my resistance band and I sat on a bench and did them that way. And I just used this as a sort of like little finisher burnout exercise just to finish off the session. I did 3 different sets. So on the first set I did 20 reps, on the second set I did 30 reps, and on the third set I did 40 reps. So just increased it by 10 each time. And yeah, my glutes were on fire by the end. And yeah, that's the full workout that I did. I know it's only 5 exercises, but it was still definitely a killer. You don't need to be doing loads and loads of different exercises in your sessions. I find that, like I said at the beginning, sticking to the basics is what works for me anyways. Like, don't try and overcomplicate it, just stick to movements that you enjoy and that you really feel, and just try and progress on those rather than trying to do like too many things. Just focus on like a few main movements is what I would say. So yeah, I hope you found it helpful, and obviously you can use this workout for one of your own sessions getting back into the gym, or even if you just want to take like a few exercises or a few of the tips for some inspo, then I hope you enjoy. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like and subscribe. I will probably do more videos like this in the future. I do think they are quite beneficial, so if you've got any sort of other workouts that you would want me to do in particular, whatever kind of you think will be helpful, let me know and I'll try and prioritise those ones first. Thanks for watching!